if you have pruners and you don't generally clean them, Kevin's going to, I think, including that.
Yeah.
By the end of today, you will know how to clean them. Please do it all the time because it's unimaginably easy to get problems from one plant to another. So please don't hesitate to do that as many times as possible, and certainly before you come here in the morning or right when you get here, one or the other. We also encourage you to, when you're not using your gloves, to wash your hands after you've done something in the garden, not only for your own sanitary stuff, but again, for the plants.
Everybody see? All right. Why grow your own? I mean, obviously, because number one, and I'm convincing you of this, it's easy. Over the course of the next 4 weeks, develop your confidence that you can do it, and we will show you a lot of things. Some of you already are doing stuff like that, but we will show you some techniques, and we will talk about plants and how they grow and all of that. We'll cover plants next week. So we will, topic by topic, we'll cover things. At any time, as Mary said, ask questions. I love questions. That shows you're engaged. All right. Now, vegetables. Okay. Everybody mentioned something particular, but I brought these cards, these pictures of things that perhaps not 100% of you already are familiar with. Either you have not eaten it or you have not grown it. So I want to introduce those to you because everything I show you is very easy to grow. Here, you know that you're in a miracle district, right? You know that outside is a paradise for growing food. So there's no excuse for you not to be growing something, all right? And what I tell people is grow, when you start your garden, grow number one, the things you really like. The things you eat a lot, the things you buy at the store a lot. Grow it, and that way, in 15 minutes, you're gonna have dinner on the table, you just go out and get it. All right, isn't that wonderful? Okay. Come here. We're here Tuesdays, Saturdays, or I am here Tuesdays, Saturdays. Come here. You can learn from me too. All right? And help us out. Okay. We have an extremely diverse community in Los Angeles, as you know. And people from all over the world. And people from all over the world are growing things that we don't necessarily know about. So we've planted lots of those things here. We want to introduce them to you so you can grow them. Hopefully you will like them. They're all easy to grow and easy to prepare. And part of our teaching you is also how to prepare some of these things, because I know that that's a limitation when people go to the supermarket and they see something new and they go, well, I don't know what to do with that. I mean, what is that, right? Okay, so those are all my motives. Now, let's start.
Before this class is over, if it's possible, or at a later time, if you all could share how you got to be so awesome at some point.
I'm here Tuesdays, Saturdays. Come here. You can learn from me too, all right? And help us out. Okay, I am a botanist by training. I think it's really important to understand things like plant families, the organization of all living things, organized species, genus, family, order, etc. Okay, because if you have one plant that has a particular problem, a disease, or a tendency to do something, all the members of that family are going to have that same tendency. All right, one thing I want you to know about the artichoke is it's a sunflower. It's in the sunflower family. And you see that when it goes past the point of eating, the point of eating is when it's still a bud, the flower bud. You like went away, for 3 weeks. You come back, it's what's happened? Turned purple. That's because it has turned into the flowers it was meant to do. So the flowers, when the buds, when they come, that all makes it gorgeous. It's a great between you and neighbor privacy screen. So consider it as architecture and use it in your back, if you want a fence, plant some artichokes. Okay, what's that? Lettuce. Well, different kinds of lettuce. Lettuce is in the sunflower family.
Oh.
It's basically a sunflower, yes. What is girasol? Girasol. Spanish speakers, where are you? Yeah. Girasol is follow the sun. Girar means to follow. So girasol is the Spanish name for, and then in English, of course, it would be girasol. Brassica. It's also called the mustard family. You'll be amazed, but you are going to eat a lot of mustards this coming season, because while you're just finishing your tomatoes and your peppers and your squashes, in other words, things that have fruit, now you're going to start eating leaves and stems, you know. So radishes is a what? Not leaves, not stem. It's a root. Collard greens. If there is only space for one brassica, I suggest you plant either kale or collards because they have the highest food value. And I'm going to give you a nutrition sheet next week when we talk more detailed about plants. So those two are, if you want to get the most, bang for your buck, collards or mustard greens will give you the most vitamin A, vitamin C, iron, all those things. And they are so easy to grow. Where people have these ancient collards, they let them grow for like 5 years or more. They grow these woody stems and then they get new stems up. Okay, that's okay, but I'm going to show you collards that the way we grow them here, the leaves are going to be more tender if you do what we do. Those are fine, but when the base of the plant gets really old, the top that it produces is not optimum. What part of this plant are you eating?
The flower.
Yay! Cauliflower. Mass of hundreds of flowers, not one flower, hundreds of flowers. So if you went away on vacation for 3 weeks and nobody took care of it, nobody cut it, when you come back, this is what your cauliflower is going to look like. It's going to be cauliflowers. You still eat this, yes, but is that optimal? No, it's probably better to eat it when it's at stage. Okay, next. If you're going to grow cauliflower, grow the ones that have some color because you're going to have more vitamins, you're going to have more nutrient value for that. Plus, I think they're far more beautiful. They're gorgeous. I've grown the purple one, I've grown the orange one. They're gorgeous. Very easy mistakes that beginner gardeners do. They when they buy the little starter, they start it. They're so little, so they plant one here, one here, one here, one here. And the plant is this big. One, and it gives you one cauliflower. Kohlrabi. Now, this is my personal favorite. How many of you eaten kohlrabi? Just Beth. Oh, yes, you guys who know me, you've eaten it, because I bring it. I'm a kohlrabi pusher. It is in the mustard family, so it has all the good qualities, all the vitamins and nutrients of any of the mustards, but it is gorgeous. And it doesn't take up that much space. The kohlrabi itself is about this big. The leafy part is about this big. So you can plant them fairly close together. They have a long period of growth, so you can pick one now, and 2 weeks later you can pick another one and eat it. In other words, you don't have to harvest everything, in a short period of time. I would plant that up in the front of your garden, so when somebody walks in and sees it, they go, whoa, what is that? I'm talking about truly gorgeous. Okay. What part do you eat? That swollen thing, that is not a root, it's not underground, it's above ground, therefore it's a stem. Yeah, you can peel the tough outer rind of the broccoli stem and the inner is tender. Well, kohlrabi beats that 10 times. Tastier, crunchier, sweeter, really excellent. That's the green kohlrabi, so there's a purple variety. But I call that the Dr. Seuss plant because that's what it looks like. It looks like something from outer space. But it is beautiful. So the reason how you can tell it's a stem, it has leaves growing out of it. If leaves grow out of you, you're a stem. That's it. Pure and simple. So the root is down here in the ground. It's all the brassicas. You can eat the leaves, including collard greens, broccoli, all of those. You can always eat the leaves. Some are going to be more tasty, some are more tender, some are, a lot tougher. But you can eat the leaves of these too. Kohlrabi you can plant 5 inches apart, which is another great thing about kohlrabi. Amaranth, it's the plant that grows up this tall. It has kind of green leaves and with reddish tinges, and you don't see any fruit. And if you hang around long enough, eventually there'll be these teeny tiny seeds. But mostly we eat the leaves. And if you eat the leaves when they're tender, the plant grows up steadily, faithfully. You'll always have it. You will have it next year, next year, next year. You'll always have it. Because those little tiny seeds you couldn't see, they're in the ground. So you can get more. So, but the Chinese called, and if you like it, then you might consider growing it. But I warn you, you better like it. Chard is also an amaranth, same family. So in chard, you're eating the leafy part, right? And if you grow chard at all, get a seed packet, get the one that's called Bright Lights. You'll see a picture. It's got yellow stem, pink stem, red stem, and it's really beautiful. So next to kohlrabi, you can, if you're going to have another front of your vegetable garden, plant that, because that's also gorgeous. So it can be eaten as spinach. It can be eaten raw, so you can just tear it up, put it in salads. It's wonderful in soups. It's great stir fry chard with kale and with all the other greens, and then you'll have a nice mixture. Onions, garlic, greens, and you've got a very fast dish. Spinach is one of these very finicky.
Oh, okay. I don't want that.
You gotta kind of encourage it. Chard, you stick it in the ground.
Yeah.
You're off running. Cannot let spinach dry out. Chard is like it's there we have it all year. Chard and beets are like half sisters. They're like half sisters, except the beet is more concentrated and putting all of its, stored energy that it makes above ground, putting it in the root. It's still going to have the leafy on top, and it will still have vitamin C on top. So you want the tops. And even if you didn't eat them, you want the tops because you want to compost them. Yeah? There are so many kinds of beans. And today we're giving you bean seeds to take home. And Mary's going to explain how you can get them started. And the way that we have you do this method, it's a great way, what I call, to proof your seeds. Let's say you have bean seeds, you planted them 2 years ago. And now it's summer again and you want to plant them. Well, I don't know if these seeds are good. So that's the way that you can proof those seeds and see what the viability is. And if none of them germinate, then just, put it in your compost. Okay. When we started the garden was very sterile. There was nothing here for decades and decades. So one of the things I did was I scattered fava beans all over the ground. And we'll go into that later. But so I'm going to point out fava beans are still coming up around our garden, and that's a great thing. That's a great thing. These are called yard-long beans. They're not quite yard-long. Our garden, we have never sprayed anything on any of our plants but water. That's it. We haven't used anything else. It doesn't require a lot of space, so it's probably worth your planting a little patch of it, like in a corner of your bed, because your homegrown garlic. Well, number one, you have it in the ground. It's right there. Leeks are also in that onion family. That's my thing. Too expensive, so I don't buy it, but it's great. It's a great thing for you to grow. Okay.
Just remember, it takes a long time.
It does. Yes, that's for sure.
I was going to talk about this next week, but I brought the seed exchange. If you really get into gardening, you might want to join them. It doesn't cost anything, really. But this is Seed Savers Exchange, and I'll leave it on the table so you can get the website and you can look through all the seeds available. This isn't pretty pictures, but it's got a ton of varieties of tomatoes or what have you, beans or what have you. Definitely worth joining them. So when you're getting ready to get some seeds, because it's so limited in the stores here, extremely limited in the nurseries here. But here you can get hundreds of tomato varieties or whatever. Okay. All right, so shade and light is very important. When we started our orchard, that's going to mean trees, right? Fruit trees. Then we planted it over there. We made a raised berm and we planted the trees over there. Now, the first thing you're going to do when you're home, and I know a lot of people don't always know, where is east, west, north, south at your house? That you have to figure out first. And some people really don't know. So I always say, take a cup of coffee, go outside. Where's the sun? That's east. Go out in the afternoon with a glass of wine.
They should have their sketches here now.
Yes, and then we asked you to bring a sketch because then we're going to evaluate that. I thought Mary's going to evaluate, but she's not going to be back next week.
I'm here next week.
Oh, you are? Oh,
Yeah.
oh, great, great. Okay, so you can give them to Mary, and she'll give you some comments.
And if you didn't get a chance to do it this week and
Yeah.
bring it next week.
Yeah. So it's just we want to locate the possible plantable area. So you want to keep in mind shade. You want to keep in mind the orientation of the sun. All right. Here, that's north, that's south. That's east, and that's west. So where are we going to see the most sun? I'm going to plant my cabbage. Where am I going to plant it?
South, right? That's the afternoon sun.
South is a lot of sun.
Yeah.
That's south over there. And I didn't intend for that tree to get too big. My mistake. My mistake. Big mistake. I'm going to take that tree out or cut it down or something. Okay. So the sun comes up over here, east, travels across the south, goes down in the west. All right? So this is where the most sun is. Now, if I'm a tall, tall tree and I go stand over here, my vegetables are here, what's going to happen? I have the vegetables here and I'm a tall tree. It's going to shade. It's going to shade that bed. So if I'm a tall tree, I go over here, right? On the north end. Then I get all that nice southern sunlight, east, south, west light. Okay, so the easiest thing is to remember tall things on the north side. Just remember that. Tall things on the north side. Now things are different depending on your condition, and you're going to show that in the drawings. If there's a tall 3-story apartment building right next to you, that changes things, right? Okay. The other thing, so besides light and sunlight, water. Where is your water valve? Your water valve. Ideally, you want to put your planting bed reasonably close to your water valve. Otherwise, as we did for 2 years, walk an enormous distance to pull our water hose. If you have the budget for it, and if your water valve is way in the back of your yard and you want your garden here, rather than dragging or buying a 200-foot hose, I would suggest you hire somebody to go into your plumbing system, put a water line from over there, or from your house. There's going to be a water valve next to your house. If you can't plant right next to your house, then do that. It will save you an enormous amount of work, and find out how much it costs. That's a very simple thing to do. If not, buy a 100-foot hose and get the water there. But you have to have the water there. So light and water. Now the most important thing, and the next teacher is going to talk about soil. All right. Now everybody says, "Oh, I have terrible soil." I've never heard anybody say, "I have wonderful soil." I have terrible soil. It's so clay. Well, we have this soil test that you can do with your soil that you brought today to show you that ain't necessarily true. Most people who believe they have terrible all clay soil, turns out it's not. But so all clay can be, not harmful, but it kind of inhibits plant growth, for different reasons. And then sandy soil is the other. So if you live near Santa Monica, for example, you might have a lot of sand in your soil, and that's a different problem. It's like you lose water too fast. But I'm going to let the next teacher talk about that. So light, water, soil. Those are the things that we want. And so where you locate your plant, you need to keep those things in mind. All right?
One of the resident master gardeners. So, who has bad soil?
I don't. I would raise bed.
Who has bad soil? Anybody? Everybody's soil is great?
I don't know.
We don't know?
I don't know. No.
Don't want to say anything? Not sure? Check it out. Look at it. Tell me if it's good soil or bad soil.
Oh, well, it seems fine to me.
Pass it on. Is it good soil or bad soil? Take a look at it. Don't beat it all up. Gotta share. Gotta share. Gotta share.
That one looks good too. I have no idea.
This one, no. This looks better.
This one just looks dry.
Looks dry.
Does have some peas in it.
So this is a if maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Kind of.
Who read the homework?
Where did we learn about homework?
Yes, who did? Who read
It's
the
on the
homework?
it's the first thing on the top of the syllabus.
Who got a syllabus?
You.
Everybody.
It's on
In the email. In the email?
I will print that.
With all
Yeah,
the
Denise,
It's all the
where are you,
information,
Denise?
like where to come, what time
Okay, I
to be
didn't see
here.
the syllabus.
Okay,
It's-
that's fine. It's an
it's okay.
attachment. If you don't have it, email me and I'll let you know.
So one of the good things is we have assignments that are attached to the syllabus, and within that, it gives us the opportunity to go through and read and learn some of the things that we're going to talk about in class. So as we pass that around, we're going to get some assessments.
Yeah, that looks. I think it was bad.
Feeling they're all good.
We don't know. Are they good, bad, indifferent?
Sort of.
You're saying you can tell just by like without needing special tools. You don't need a microscope to tell.
We got the best tool around.
Hands.
Your hands or
Your
eyeballs?
hands, your brains, your eyes. Because when you going through it and you take a look at things, you're making assessments. You're able to feel the composition of the soil. As you're touching it, if it was moist and you squeeze it together, what happens?
Stays together.
Is it staying together? Is it falling apart? Is it somewhere in between? So as we look at those things, we're making assessments about what's going on here. What is soil needed for a plant? Why do we need soil? Nutrients,
To hold the water.
hold the water, support,
Drain the water.
drain the water,
Bacteria and fungi.
bacteria and fungi. So the plants need something to grow in. It needs some kind of medium. We need a medium. So there's different types of medium. We have soil is one of those mediums. The good thing about soil is you don't have to do a lot in order for the plant to have a good growing environment and then also be able to have nutrients to grow. If we use hydroponics, you got to feed the plant everything. The good thing about soil is it's going to all be there. So we had bags 1, 2, and 3. Who thought 1 was good soil? Who thought it was 1 was good soil? So what was 1?
There might be good soil for something.
So number 1 is soil that hasn't been amended by us. This is what's here. I went out on that parkway and took a sample. So we know for sure on the parkway, Nobody's gone out there adding any organic materials. Whatever is out there is just there. Number 2 is from one of my old plots that's been amended quite a bit. And
Shall I pass that around? The bag?
well, it's been around, but that one has been amended quite a bit. And when I first started, that one it had a lot of clay, and we've added chicken manure, horse manure, worm castings. It's been worked for a couple of years, and did you feel the texture of it? Number 3 is one that I just started working on last year, and just started adding amendments to it. And you see, it's not as fine as that one, but it still has some pretty good structure. But you see, what we started out with from the beginning, it wasn't bad. So what are the components of soil? What are the 3 things that make it up? Yeah,
Homework.
Three major components. Anybody?
Thoughts for this?
No? Nobody? Anybody? Sand.
all know
There we go.
one.
Sand. We got sand.
You got a hand over here, Kevin.
We talked about one. What did I start a lot with? A lot of what? Clay. And what's the last one? So which is the largest? What's the largest particles?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
So we have sand, silt, and clay.
Silt.
You think silt is the largest? No. Sand is the largest particles. And then we have silt, and then we have clay. Clay is very fine. So clay is, for the most part, almost microscopic. So sand, silt, and clay is really the backbone of your soil. How did it get here? Where did it come from? Where does sand come from? Rock. So we look up there on the mountain. When we find sand, once upon a time it was up there. And over time, as the waters poured down on the mountains and rushed it down through the rivers, and the land has been flooded, it keeps depositing particles of whatever was up there. So whatever was made up in the rocks, those things eventually make their way down here to the land and all the way out to the sea. And as it washes down, it leaves deposits, and we get all these different layers that build up over time. And so you'll get sand, you get silt, you get clay, and it's just in different variations laid out all throughout wherever you are. So here, depending on what it looked like, millions of years ago, thousands of years ago, we're gonna have a certain composition here. And what is one of the most fertile places in the whole United States? Mississippi Delta, Central Valley. What was the original large-scale agriculture?
The Midwest.
So, LA County was one of the largest agricultural producers in the United States.
It's not anymore.
Still?
Los Angeles County,
No.
not anymore.
It was the 3rd largest producer in the entire United States. The 3rd.
LA County.
Yep.
Right here, we sit on fertile farmland. They had cattle, orchards, grapes, you name it. They had all kind of crops here. Probably all the way up to like the 50s. And then it all transitioned to other places. So when we look at soil porosity, which is the thing that probably makes a huge impact on our gardening. Did you guys notice anything about that soil, or how do you think water would percolate through there?
The one that's amended?
So on all of them, think about what you saw, and if you wet that, how do you think it would behave?
The second one, I think, would absorb a little bit better because it was like, more properly already. So I think that's going to make it stick together more. And then the third one was already very tight together. So I think that it's getting there to be a little bit more porous. And the first one probably just goes right through.
All right.
So probably reverse that order. but you're on the right track. That first one, if you saw how tight it was. So imagine when water pours down and you ever look around and you see water pooling.
Yeah.
That's because it's compacted. There's nowhere for the water to go. So it takes a long time for it to percolate, because you got to think what water does is works its way through all the cracks and crevices and particles that's in the structure. So if you have a lot of clay, very fine, when it wets, it's going to be very compact. Where is the water going to go?
Run off.
It's going to run off, or it just takes a long time for it to slowly work its way through. When you have some larger particles in there, what is the water going to do? It's going to go in there and say, oh, I found a little space, I found a little space, I found a little space. And it's going to slowly work its way down. And that's why when you have a good structure of sand, silt, and clay, there's enough places for the water to go and percolate down. You have things that's going to absorb water and hold on to it. And then there's just enough compaction so that plants can stand up. They can be upright. They can take the roots and send them out and create a good base and anchor.
Excuse me. What is silt?
Silt. So silt is basically when your sand keeps breaking down. So it's a finer particle. So you can imagine if you took a grain of sand and put it in a mortar and pencil and took it and you ground it up, you're going to start off with a big crystal. And then you crack it a little bit, what's going to happen? You get some smaller ones, and then you're going to eventually get some that's going to be almost like dust. And one of the things that when we do our soil tests is we're going to put it in a jar, shake it up, and we're going to let it re-stratify. Because what are heavy pieces going to do? They're going to drop. And then the next heaviest is going to settle on top. And then what's the lightest?
Yep.
Clay. The clay is going to take a long time to settle out because it's lighter than water. So it's going to float around. Eventually, as it absorbs moisture, it'll eventually settle on down in the water. Does the same thing in the land. And like a lot of these beds, you'll see you put water on them, it's going to absorb right in. Because we've amended it so that it can percolate down. Because basically what you're doing, you're creating a reservoir for the plants. If it holds enough moisture, it's holding the nutrients. When the plants need it, what do? They send the roots out to go and find it.
About this amending process, sounds like you said that the highest quality that you showed us had been amended for a while, but how long does it take to get to a higher level that's maybe decent, even if it's not optimal?
So, here, I haven't found anywhere that in Southern California that I've gardened that I start off to say it's bad. I've gone places, it's different from what I'm accustomed to, but it's not bad. You just have to learn how to work with it. So you might start off with something that's okay, and it's going to grow things, but what we're looking for is optimum production. So you want to create the best environment possible for your plants to grow in, because the end result, we want to eat some healthy, sweet, nutritious food. So what we're doing is creating an environment that's optimum for the plant. So if you look at,
I have a short answer.
Yes.
2 years.
but you look at it, it's a lot of things. It's dependent on a lot of things. Your microorganisms, all these different things that are in play is going to help drive what's going on in your soil. But that one is probably what, about 2 years or so. The other one is about 6 months, and then
The tomato?
no,
or-
my the samples.
Oh.
And so the second bag is about 2 years of amending. That third one was 6 months. The other one is nobody touched it. And if you look through it, you can kind of see the different structures of it. If you go out and you dig into a lot of these plots, especially for people, you have people that's been here for 20 years, and you'll see the difference in. It's all the same. It started off as all the same thing, but you can see how time and the effort that people have put into it have changed the structures in here. So you have probably 30 different sets of soil in this big garden. And then here, you figure in our boxes is going to be different than the things that's out here on the sides or in the orchard. Orchard is probably going to be the most natural thing because it's has a natural process of doing that. The leaves fall, they decompose, everything is doing it in place. Here in the boxes, we're manually manipulating it. And so if you looked at those two different things, you're going to see something completely different. Is one better than the other? Not necessarily. The orchard, I think about from the time that I got here to now, is just exploded.
We had a huge amount of loquats, remember?
Yes.
Last year. I mean, pounds and pounds and pounds. People were like desperate to figure out what to do with them.
And that's just been years of working it. You know, the beds, if you came and saw some of these boxes and the tomatoes that, one tomato plant 5 feet wide, 6 feet tall. I mean, huge, just massive. And that's all from working that soil.
Sorry.
So this is what this looks like before.
It was a parking lot, basically.
That's what it looked like. 2016 is when we started the garden. And then we started adding. So I'll leave this here.
So if you guys look at like this space over here, and this whole plot looked like this. Trampled on, compacted, had poor tilt. You couldn't work it. When you look in those bags and you can feel it, you feel how it's crumbly. So imagine if you're a plant and you're trying to grow in there, how would your roots be able to go down? Here, if you put a seed in, how far you think the roots would be able to go? Maybe an inch, if that. But imagine what you got in those bags. And if you're a plant, you were trying to send out your roots and anchor yourself down. Some of these plants, they might send roots down 3-4 feet. Those tomato plants, I guarantee, if you go and you just dug them up, the root structure is huge. And some of the carrots and radishes, when you have excellent tilt on it, you see carrots, they're down here. You start trying to pull them out.
What's tilt?
Tilt. Who has bag number 2?
Tilt to me means this.
Guys, I wrote a little cheat sheet on there.
Complete novice.
That's a good farmer's vocab, and city people often don't know it. So you're gonna learn a new word.
We're gonna talk about the tilt now.
Pay attention, feel it. Rub it in between your fingers.
That's the one that you commended 2
Yes.
years.
But rub it in between your fingers. Close your eyes and rub it. Right in some condition.
Tilt.
You want it back?
Yeah, but grab some, close your eyes, and just rub it in your fingers. So tell me, what do you feel?
Gritty, dry.
Ooh, it definitely leaves a residue.
What do you feel? Not what you see. What do you feel?
Teeny small particles with some bigger particles. What?
Sand. What else? What did you feel?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Just little teeny particles, a little bit of moisture maybe.
Little teeny
a couple
particles.
Little bigger rocks or more compacted pieces.
What did you feel?
Kind of even.
Kind of even.
Yeah.
But all the everything was the same size.
No, but it's kind of.
The range is small. The
variation.
range of size.
There's variation, but it's sort of like even. Like the newer one, it's like it's got chunks and it's got this and it's got that, and this is more like.
More consistent in size.
Consistent. Yeah.
So did you feel like you have grainy particles in there? You had some that feel woody, some that feel sandy, some that feel fine, and then some that feel powdery. That's the tip, is the structure of it. How does it feel? How can you work it? If I took it and dug this up, I think the feel would be very different. You'll probably feel very rough and very fine. You're not going to have a lot of those in-between particles. And it's the variation of all those different things is what helps that process. Some of those things in there are going to be good at holding water. So you water deeply, it's absorbing the water. And the way it works is kind of like, anybody ever make candles? So water works in a wicking action. So it percolates down and then it wicks its way back up. And so it goes in both directions. And in order for it to wick back up, it has to be there. So you have to be able to hold on to it. So you're looking for that percolation because you want to get that water as deep as possible. Because when it's on the surface, what happens to it? It's gone. So the plants aren't going to be able to access what's not there. So it's the water coming back up that it's going to be able to access. Yeah, because you look at plants that have very shallow root systems, what do you have to do all the time? Water. Because it can't go down and get it. The root system is just shallow. So it needs to be watered all the time. Plants that have a deeper root system, it's going to go out and tap that reservoir. Things that are in between, they're going to tap that reservoir. The better capacity you have at holding nutrients and water, the better output you're going to have at the end. You know, one of the things I look at is watermelon. It doesn't have a really deep root system, but it requires a lot of water. And so in order for the vines to really do well, you need to have excellent tilt in your soil. They need to be able to get out and get a good depth in it because they need to suck it up. And you also need to be able to hold a lot of water. Because basically, if you look at a watermelon, it's mostly water. So imagine if you had 4 melons on a vine, how much water it requires in order to produce that. And so now you can see how it works hand in hand.
So would you say that tilt is the
the quality of the soil or the description of the ability of the soil to let the water go deep and wick back up. So you're feeling for the, you're not. You're saying it's something else. I mean, you're
Yeah,
kind
look,
of
look,
saying no.
I'm thinking about what you're saying and saying what I want to say that as a definition.
That isn't.
Not necessarily.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to understand the definition.
I'm trying to see if we have a.
I have the qualities, but is it
Tilth is
the feel for this?
Tilth is the condition of the tilled soil. It comes from tilling the soil, right? Especially in
Oh.
respect to suitability for growing.
So we got a soil with good growing conditions.
Okay. Is it spelled T-I-L-T?
TILTH.
Oh. Okay. Put that H in there.
And I think one of the good things is when we go through the demonstration of the tools, then a lot of it's going to make sense because you're going to go and break ground. And you get an opportunity to see what's there. We get a chance to look at the soil structure. And you get a chance to look at it and say, what's the likelihood that water can penetrate? And you're going to get a chance to see, because you're going to take a shovel and put it down and see where does the moisture stop. And that gives you a good idea of what's going on with that soil. Is the water able to percolate or not? We had the rains here, and we had planted some trees, and I was shocked. We went down about almost 4 or 5 feet, and it was moist all the way down. And so that tells you that there's good porosity in that soil, because a couple months after the rain had stopped, we went down and we were still able to do that. It didn't just all turn into runoff and washed out to the street and out to the ocean. That it was able to work its way down in the soil. And I imagine that's why if you look at these trees, you can see that they're doing well. There's no irrigation along this part right here. So everything that feeds these trees is in the soil. And we just pruned what? Last year?
Yeah.
And we're
They
talking,
got pruned some this year too.
yeah, we took them way back. And you can see they're huge. And, here, this one was, what, about here?
Yeah.
And it's almost doubled in size.
And you don't feed them or anything.
Nothing.
It's all just from the organic material,
Yes.
from the leaves and everything else.
Yes.
We feed them with compost, which we'll learn on a lot about in another class. But no pot. Yeah, all the trees. But yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Like,
Sure.
the good quality soil, right? If I'm planting in a pot, wouldn't I just buy
so
good quality soil?
Yes.
So you're planting in a pot, but when they make these blends, what is the thought process behind making a blend?
It's just good to grow everything.
Because what they're trying to do is mimic what you have. And so they're going to say, oh, you have desert plants. Desert plants need this type of environment to grow in. So we're going to say we're going to put this material in there and that material in order to create that environment. And so when you look at all these different mixtures, have a lot of the same things, but it's the ratio that they put things in there that make it optimal for a given plant.
So if I'm growing like kale and chard and basil, right? There is a specific soil for those types of things versus like if I'm growing onions and I don't know, squash. Like, are those different types of soils?
Most of those things are all do the same.
Well, if they were different, would it be the same kind of, like, would I be looking for the same kind of, like, soil? Like, is there, like, fruit soil mixture versus vegetable soil mixture? Does that make sense?
No, it does.
No, that's
But
marketing.
but a lot of it is it's the same thing. The difference is say like if you're dealing with succulents. If you took your garden variety planting mix and you put your succulents in there, guess what's going to happen to them? They're going to die. They're going to suffocate. Why? Because there's too much moisture. They don't need it. So those different mixtures, they hold on to water differently. And so basically what you're looking at is you're creating the environment that the plants like to live in. So a lot of plants don't like what we call wet feet. So they don't want their roots sitting in water. Some plants will rot out like that. Others are just, they'll struggle. Some, your succulents, if you sit those in something that's kind of wet, you'll see they'll rot out probably within a week. But it's all creating that environment.
So
Your time is up, if you don't mind. We're going to talk about soil again and again, and we'll talk when you do it with the tools, when you're planting. And I think mainly what Florence said is true. It's a lot of marketing. If you go to a good, like, I hope no one cares about this place, but if you go to Lowe's, for example, they're mostly selling bad soil. It's treated, it's this and that. If you read the labels, you're like, ooh. But if you go to a real nursery, and we can all tell you of some around where you live, they will know what they're doing, first of all. You can, like, if you go to Sunset Nursery on Sunset, like right where it curves to Silver Lake, they will spend the whole day with you if you like. I mean, they're so into what they're doing, and if you ask a question, they're going to just tell you more than you ever thought you wanted to know. So we'll go back at that again and again. It was this huge swath of Southeast LA, and people didn't know, so they were planting food and in their yards and eating it and whatever. And it is now in the courts, and there's alleged remediation going on. But so there are possible terrible problems. I don't want to make light of that at all. But in general, if you're worried for any reason at all, like your neighbor, builds cars next to you or something, I don't know, get your soil tested. It's really not hard to do. You just mail off a little bit. I'm going to pass around. There are home testing soil kits if you feel comfortable with that, but then there are a couple of places, one locally and one not, that will test your soil for you for not a whole lot of money, and then you'll actually really know. I mean, I wouldn't feel comfortable testing it myself, so anyway, even with a kit. But I'll pass these around in a second, but they show you, this will show you what you would get back if you sent, an example of what you would get back if you sent your soil to these places. You can pay as little as like $30, I think, and as much, depending on what you want to know and other issues, as much as like a couple $100. But you don't need to do that. You're like, virtually all home gardeners need the like $35 level tests. So that, and what you're really worried about, if you're like thinking about your location, obviously factories that could potentially be doing bad things with their bad stuff, pollutants, okay, industrial stuff. Like I said, if your neighbor is messing around with cars all the time, obviously, you've seen it when you walk around the world, junk all over the street from people working on their cars. That's not stuff you want to eat. So, if you have a lot of that in your neighborhood, I would get my soil tested. If you know that the water near your place of where your garden spot is contaminated, I would get my soil tested. Basically those are the main things. But honestly, if you're worried, it's worth your $35 to have peace of mind at least. So that's kind of not a small deal. But if you're looking,
Can I just add one more thing? A lot of people don't think about, but if you live in LA, if your house is over, say, 60 years.
That's what I was doing next.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that's okay. What I was going to say first is if you look at your place, there are some signs that the soil is contaminated. There are like patches of discoloration. I'm not talking if it's full like this, because obviously we can't see a lot of this ground, but when you're starting out, you might be able to smell something that is just off, that doesn't belong in your ground. Or if it's a place that's, if it was like this berm and nothing was growing, weeds or anything, I mean, no plant has the ability to grow there. that's another sign that things might not be very good. So, again, no one's going to make you do it, but if you feel any concern, it's totally fine. And you can feel very reassured. The things that you're most worried about, or that one would be most worried about, are lead and arsenic. They're the most, and arsenic sounds really bad, but it's in bigger quantities it is really bad, but you all probably know that some stone fruits have arsenic in their pits. So, it can be taken up in leaf tissue if you have a lot of it in your ground. That's why you're worried about it. There are ways to treat it. If you're building a raised bed, which is one way to not use soil you're concerned about, but you have to also think about what wood you're using. Some of those pressurized wood products, like that they build decks with and stuff, they will seem perfectly wonderful for this, but they're not. They often have chemicals in the treatment of the wood that's not very desirable. But you can buy good wood, like that went from doing anything, your floors, your whatever. Redwood, cedar are very good. Other things are okay as long as you know that they haven't been treated with something that you're unhappy about. So I think what you were going to say, lead, right? Yeah. So just from if you ever lived in an apartment building, if it's an old building, that they were supposed to remediate any lead paint, right? They might not have. And if it's a private home, a single family home, you may not be sure if they did that before you got there. So that obviously is really terrible if it gets into a person, especially a small person, because there are all kinds of brain effects for kids who have been exposed to lead paint. And we now know that it's not okay, but as Florence said, if it's like beyond maybe 50 or 60 years old, it's no guarantee that it was taken out. Okay, so even in a contaminated place, most fruits, especially ones that you peel, are not really going to be a problem, as long as you peel them. I mean, so that's something. If you have any concerns, just peel it. And start remediating the soil as best you can with compost, with manure of whatever kind. If you're not, some places don't use animal manures. It's a philosophy, not a real thing. But those people might use worm manure, which is something we'll talk about when we do composting. Worms are awesome poopers, and that poop is like gold. And you can buy bags of worm compost. They're usually quite expensive, but if again, it's a choice thing. If you're worried and you want to remediate the soil, you certainly can buy them. You can buy big bags of them, or like just a little bit. You can also buy compost. You can make it yourself, but obviously it takes a while to get it going, and maybe you don't have a place where you can do that. If you can't do it where you live, there are some organizations like LA Compost, which have kind of like a trade thing. So you bring your compost to a location, and there are several every week or whenever you bring it, and then you will, sort of earn the right to get compost that's made from it. They suggest if you don't have a place to keep your compost, you can just bag it and put it in the freezer until you're bringing it to the central place. So anyway, that's really it. It's you do the beans and
What am I doing?
the bean experiment where they take beans and bring them home to
Oh, will
the
you
paper
show
towel.
them? Yeah, do we have paper towels to show them?
There's one right there.
Okay.
What are these guys? What are these guys?
They're just mixed beans.
Okay, all right, got one. Okay, so I'll explain.
And then
So what you're going to do is you're
I'll
going
do
to take
that.
some beans
Okay.
home.
Just fancy ones that they're welcome to
If
have
you
too. I
if
was
you
giving
if you're
them, but they're-
mathematically inclined, if you take
Okay.
5 beans and 2 of them germinate and 3 don't, then you figure out the percentage, right? It's like 4 out of 10, right? So that's 40% germination.
So when you read on a packet of seeds, you know, I don't know, September 1922, and it's a whole year, it's a whole long time later, that doesn't mean that those are junk and you need to throw them away.
Right.
If they put on, if originally say 95% of the seeds in the packet germinated, and you're a year later, maybe it's 75%. So what it might mean is that you, instead of putting 1 seed in each little spot, you'll put 2. But it doesn't mean that they're useless. You do not have to throw them away. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
what I brought, 2018. But I proofed these. And that's
seen
what you
the-
guys
the
are going to do.
labor
You're going to proof the beans.
I
So,
resent you.
and if it were the right
sure I did, but
season,
No, it's fine. I
after they
resent it.
germinate, you would plant
say,
those. But this is not bean planting
Don't miss
season
the
now,
homework.
right?
I would've blocked
right?
it out.
Because it's
Anybody else not signed in
this
or
is something
wavered
you
in?
would plant in, you know, February,
And we have
March,
something
or
that we
April.
so you can-
But this is an exercise so you can practice. How do you proof seeds? You've got some old seeds, so you don't know if they're good or not. Okay, so that's the way you do it. So you get a paper towel. I've only got a half.
You don't
Do you want me to
want
wet it?
Yeah, yeah. So you're gonna moisten the paper towel, and then you're gonna
No, because
find a flat container, right? Or you can use a plate. And you're going to put the wet towel down, and then you're going to arrange your seeds across. And if you don't want to do all the math, you could do 10 seeds if you want to do that. Otherwise, you could do 5.
Yeah, so
And
that means
and the other part of the paper towel is also moist. You're going to lap it over the seeds, right? Then you're going to either put the whole thing in a plastic bag, or if you have a little plastic lid, I mean, I'm finding, you know, those take-home food containers. Okay, I usually don't. All of us here hate plastic, but I have to say that's pretty useful. So if you save those,
And you're reusing
food,
it, so.
and I'm reusing, and you're going to reuse. So put the moist paper down the bottom of that, you know, with the extra, and then put your seeds down. Then put the moist paper towel on top of it again, and then put the plastic lid on. Not tight. You want it to get air.
Between 5?
So you do 5, and then and you're going to do that, and you're going to have it in your in whatever container, plate or whatever. But the most important thing is you want to make a moist chamber. So you don't want the paper towels to just dry out, and then you have to wet it again repeatedly. That's why you put it either in a plastic bag, or you put a plastic, you know, the lid on top of that. Now, we want you to put your beans wherever you like. Don't put them in the closet, fine. The chances are germinating. So, because the fun is next week when you all, unveil your beans.
Reveal.
Some people are gonna go, that's just fabulous beans, you know, and then there's always somebody who says, I only have one. And that's when we say, well, where did you put your beans? You know, what conditions? And and what the temperature was. And we'll find the particulars, in other words. So that's always fun and interesting.
Someone
So
in the
I'm-
last class actually took their beans and put them in different locations. They put them
Ah.
like in a window that got
Yeah.
direct sun. They
Yeah.
put one in a closet and they tested out
Yeah,
to see.
yeah. So this is really fun to do. These are fava beans. These are probably about 3 years old. And these beans, it says 2018, what Mary is referring to, the date. Okay, so I took a whole bunch of my old beans and I proofed them. Okay, and these germinated. So I said, okay, well, take these to class today then. All right. And then recycle. We always have these return envelopes for, you know, all these appeals. But this only has one.
I know because we're mixing
we're
them.
mixing.
Okay.
That's a fancy one.
Okay,
And since
okay.
you're not really
Oh,
planting them,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. What alum does is it helps settle the fine particles, and it helps. And so then it reorients it.
where do you get alum?
This first, and then I'll.
You know what? It is hard to find now. I got my first jar from a pool cleaning supply, because they use that to clarify the water. Yeah. But this one, before I found this one. It was in the market. It was horribly expensive, but I had to have it for the class. So this is market. People in the Midwest are very familiar with alum. We're not, because this is very often used for pickling. Alum is what makes the pickles crispy, and so that's going to be more common. So you're gonna fill up the jar all the way with water, and you're going to shake for a good 5 minutes. I want you to really, really shake it because you're trying to loosen all the particles and get it going like that. Have your name on it, and then you're going to leave it on the table, and we will read them next week. Okay?
So you don't put any water in it?
You're going to get water up to the.
So this is to see, and I should have
And
known
then
this, the composition of the soil.
It will show you, it will layer clay, silt, and sand. It will layer it. And then next week, when we look at that, we have a chart, and you can calculate. You look at this and go, wow, it looks like 50% is clay. You know. And then, looks like great soil you have. Is this amended soil? No? Looks pretty good to me.
We call it bad soil. Nothing grows in there.
Really?
Well, the gardeners are the bad ones.
If anyone wants to try one of these yard lawn beans, please help yourself.
Okay, so we need a water key to. Here you go.
Oh,
But the Bagrata bug, please be sure you control it in your garden, because if you don't and you let them survive, they will lay eggs. They lay the eggs in the soil. You will have them forever. And it's another reason why I believe in cleaning up a garden. I mean, some people just like cut things down and just leave them there. And I really think that you have to be more careful with the sanitation in your garden. We don't spray with anything. We never have. All these years we've had this garden, and see how beautiful it is. But it requires, and I usually tell students, there is a product, there is something you can use that's safe and that works, and that's called vigilance. Vigilance. Your vigilance. Right. We're going to have to carefully move the vines away and up, because believe it or not, there are melons there. So we don't want to stomp on them. We don't want, we don't want to squish them. But we want to clear this patch right here out. We don't need it. We've got some more over there. Right? Yeah, we can pull these.
Oh yeah, that's the one I normally see.
Those are the collards,
Yeah.
I didn't recognize. I was like, is this weird?
I thought it was finished.
Yeah, no, but these
and
guys
then
right
this is
here
a weed that gets
are
pulled.
I'm like gonna step on tomatoes, and I have.
You know that because it's flowering?
Yeah,
I have a maybe not so bright question.
I was thinking they'd be perfect.
Eventually?
yes.
But you
All
don't.
plants do.
That's good, right?
Even like a pine tree, it has its own kind of
And then
because it has to have seed.
right.
We're going to get into that next week when I teach you the botany class. In order to have seeds, in order to have fruit, you have to have flowers.
But some things are okay to eat once flowered. Other things aren't.
Right. That's another issue. Some plants have very good edible flowers, and other plants, either the flowers aren't worth eating, or rarely is a flower poisonous. But I mean, that can be, But there are a lot of. If it's not usable, if it's all rotted and dried and wretched, then you're going to remove it. Then no weeds in the compost ever. Okay, and what else?
Seeds. But wait, Florence, can I make an exception to that? Now that the city is in your green bins, you're allowed to put more than you could. You can put weeds in the green bin because they have an industrial scale.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
compost system that gets really hot and can kill the seeds. In your own place or here or any kind of regular place, no.
Yeah, it doesn't get hot enough.
So when you have squashes, summer squashes, or cantaloupe, a lot of other things, you'll see a couple of leaves like this that get a mold on them, if you can get them early when there's one or two leaves of the whole white stuff, then mildewy stuff. It's like the squashes over there are infested. If you can get it really early, it won't kill your plant.
What's the best way to?
Just pull the leaves that have it, because it doesn't grow on the fruit. It'll just stop everything growing.
Like those poison red berries.
Yeah, what's happened.
They kind of just fall off. I don't think they don't quite come off.
Oh, but the big ones maybe.
We're gonna have to put it against the fence. Okay. That's the only thing
Oh, wow.
we can do right now.
I know, no.
We don't have space to bring it in.
Okay. Oh, that's a lot. Yeah, right?
You don't want to compost it? No. I think there's some leaves.
That's my only thing
At the minimum,
Do you want to try it?
Yeah, thank you.
Here's a few more here.
Yeah, I've been looking up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is like,
Oh yeah, there's a lot over here.
So if you eat sushi, if you
Yeah, I was
go to
gonna
sushi
say that.
restaurants,
I was like with
and
meat and stuff.
they'll put like grated daikon on top of that or rice.
But are people keeping it?
Yeah,
Or is
taste
it
it.
going the
That's the shiso. And so it's right now in seeds. And we'll talk about all of this on the third week when we talk about plants.
But she was like, we never served that.
You need a lot of room to grow these.
Oh, you do?
Well, I mean, look at it.
they were so big.
Yeah. I either get salt free or low salt. Well,
I have to get it some water, but I should be able to plant this.
Plants that we're trying to repot. Okay. I think so.
and then these are red wigglers.
Oh,
whoa.
feisty.
That one is. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that one is
Things like
putting on a
that.
show. Warm, cozy.
So basically, everybody that you see here playing around, they all eat decaying matter.
Oh, that's good. So we like to.
We love them. Yeah, huge wood chip pile, and it was sitting here for months. And so, like that, but up to here. And so you can see this is the final decomposition of those wood chips that are sitting up there. So you can kind of see the finished compost that started off with this material right here.
And you don't have to do anything. You
We didn't
just,
do anything. It was
you
just
just
a
watch
static-
it go down.
It was a static pile, just we use it to put mulch around the pathways and all that. So it just sat here. We have a guy that brings it. So they basically it goes from the end of that fence to probably about where that milkweed is a pile this big. So you can imagine it takes a long time to get through that. Next tool we're gonna learn is this one. So if you look at the shape of it, this is almost like an axe handle. And so when we're using it, it's basically you're sliding down as you're going. Your feet get a good base.
Okay.
And so basically, as you bring the tool down, you want to bring your hand down and let the tool head drop.
Okay. All right.
a lot easier, huh? Then push.
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 Not pull?
Push.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
to lift it up.
For when it's okay.
Because if you're pulling, guess what you're doing?
You're working.
You're working hard, and you might strain a muscle
Oh.
because you're working against the tool.
Oh yeah. Wow. I'm dying to try it. I know drawing, but like I don't have the right shoes, so.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what we're looking for.
Okay.
We coming in breaking us from ground.
That's incredible.
Anybody else want to try it? Anybody had a frustrating week? Need to get some frustration out.
I did have
Come get some frustration out. Next.
Oh, nice. I have a question.
Yes.
When you're lifting it up, when you first lift it up, are your hands close together and then far apart, or vice versa? Vice versa?
You want to crack up the ground, so it's not solid. And again, sideways first, and then lift up over your head, and then let it drop.
Just sitting on that pile, the decomposition.
You're gonna let it drop, but your hand is not gonna stay there. As it drops, your hand's naturally gonna slide up there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you ready to try?
Try.
Try it again. Now you slide your hand back up again. There you go. Are you starting to feel the rhythm? Yeah. Okay, good. Took that on just like a regular farmer. Tool is doing a lot of your work. And don't worry about going too far out, because then your body's way forward. You will miss your toes. I mean, that's good. If you have total hard surface, then you start with the pickaxe, because you need to break into it. And then you go with the spade fork, turn it over, and any clods, you smash the clods like that. And
So this,
I
like
suggest you always start on one end,
end.
say I'm going to here, and then I'm going to work here, and I'm going to work
So
here, and
even
I'm
though
going to
breaking
work
the
here.
claws,
Then I step back, and then I start working this way. Why am I doing that? I get here, I stop, and then I step back, and I go this way.
So you're not compacting it again.
Exactly. You did the work to get it all nice and loose. And this is what a lot of people do. They do all that work, and then they work in it. So you should not work in it.
Who's up
Then
next?
you use the rake.
You got a choice, here or
You
there.
use that rake,
Which one?
which will give you the reach to smooth it out. But the clods, this is great for breaking up the clods. I like this. See?
See what you're doing is, they call it
Okay,
grading.
so somebody continue
As
going
you
this
grade,
way.
you're gonna
That's perfect,
expose
whoever.
more of the clumps.
Okay.
And
Don't overthink it. It'll be easy.
all right, so now, pay attention. You see the big clogs, you want to break them up. I planted some mustard greens. And he'd come down there, he'd stand there and look, he'd say,
So do you want to go
I don't
from
know,
here?
I think you gave me some different seeds. I said, it's the same seeds. He said, why your greens look like that and mine don't? But I worked my soil a little different, so the plants didn't have to work as hard to do what they do. And so literally I had some mustard green leaves that would cover my whole torso. Wow. So you can see that's some pretty big leaves. And they were huge. And it was like, mine don't look like that. I said, yeah, I just did a little bit more love on my soil. and that's what it came down to is this process right here.
Right.
This process is you can't cheat this process.
Well, wait a minute. If I had a raised bed of not processed wood of 2 feet and I went to some fancy ass nursery and got some really good, all perfect soil with no chemicals in it and just dumped it in.
You still want real dirt.
I'm still waiting. I'm waiting.
But like, wouldn't that be good enough?
So the
What
thing
would I
is,
be losing?
So the thing is, when you plant in containers, which a raised bed is what?
A container.
It's a big
Well,
container. So
Unless it
when,
doesn't have a bottom. But
Yeah.
then,
so when you have a raised bed and you constantly pour water on the top, where's the water going?
but what if it's open on the
No,
bottom?
no. Where's the water going?
Well, it's going to go to the
Collect on the bottom.
Well, it depends on the tilt of the soil and how long it takes to whip down and
I like
whip
the way
back
she
up.
used tilt.
I've used it as
So-
many.
so-
I will never forget that word.
So it probably goes through and it keeps going out through the bottom.
Oh,
Yeah.
So it doesn't have enough time.
And so what happens with all the nutrients in your soil?
They leach down.
They leach out. So you had that fancy soil,
Yeah.
but guess what? You have to maintain it because you're leaching out your nutrients.
Oh, well, but I'm still confused because you're doing this great process here and you're developing the soil that's already here that presumably goes down to the core, something, water table. But what's the difference between a bed that doesn't have a bottom or has adequate drainage and what you're doing here? I mean,
So-
why isn't the nutrients leaching down
So
to the water
they
table?
still leach here, but guess what?
You're gonna work.
They're
on it.
gonna stop because I put a little water on top. That water's gonna go down a certain amount, and it's getting dispersed.
So you lose the dispersion.
So if you're in a container,
It has limits.
you don't have anywhere else to go.
So you shouldn't have raised bed gardens?
No, we're not saying that.
I mean, it's efficient. He's just saying,
we're-
It's just
we're-
probably a little
we're-
harder.
We're just talking about the
It's very
difference
hard.
because,
Optimize.
because sometimes people think
like the optimal.
people have a raised bed and they say, why is my plants not doing what I want them to do? Because it takes a little bit more care. Because you have to think, if you're leaching out the things that the plant needs, then you have to add it more frequently.
yeah.
Okay. But why is it leaching out in a bed and not leaching out there?
Because the core of the earth.
But what if I bought that soil
Squeeze that.
from you?
No, you can't buy it from me. That's natural. So what do
It
you,
has so much
can't
more
buy
room
this.
to
no,
grow.
tell me what you,
It's very satisfying to squish. It's making like a soil ball, like a mud ball.
but you think about this. So if you put something, so if you took water and you put water in there, what is the water going to do?
Well, it depends where this is.
Once it
Just
gets-
sitting on a counter.
But once it gets saturated, then it'll leach out.
Yeah.
But it's gonna hold on to it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, and then you can see like you have,
Ooh, I got a worm.
but you see as you look in there, you see all the different particles in there.
Yeah.
So basically, everything is holding together.
Yeah.
And so, when's the last time it rained really good here?
Hillary.
No, I'm saying, but you got this. This right here. There's no water out here.
Whoa, 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 whoa. I see.
Okay.
Is this,
There's no irrigation.
got it.
So this
Got it.
is all from rainwater.
Okay. Sorry, I feel like I'm taking up the.
But you see, when you prepare your soil,
But if you tend to the,
It is gorgeous.
get to the bottom, then you're gonna have a solid foundation.
Anyone else want to feel the gorgeousness?
some amendments.
So like adding
Compost,
soil,
manure.
compost.
No,
Okay.
You don't need to add soil.
Once the water,
Like
Compost.
fertilizer?
Compost, manure, fertilizer,
Okay.
because all those things get depleted.
Yeah. What do
It's
you
like
mean?
taking supplements.
Ah, okay.
We're not getting enough nutrients in our food.
have to
Right.
Supplement with iron.
Okay.
Supplement with calcium. Supplement with magnesium.
So you got to think as the plants use up the nutrients,
Mm-hmm.
then they have to be replaced.
So that's what the fertilizer is.
It's like
Right.
when you condition your hair.
Okay.
You are hilarious.
It's the same thing, right?
No, you're
Yeah, it's all connected. It just you have to understand the fundamentals.
Isn't that
Right?
Isn't that good enough? Painters do not just paint over old paint.
Yeah.
They have to sand it first.
I don't think they do that.
They have to sand it first. So where do you think that
Anybody else want
paint goes?
to break it out? Want to break it
Down the
out?
soil. So
we wanna
I
break
would
this area
advocate
right here.
not planting vegetables right next to the base of your house, but out where your lawn area is. It's not likely that the lead's out there, you know. The other good news is
Push it.
the more organic
So
material
same
you
thing.
put in your
Soft
soil,
motion. Push it.
the more that stuff
Keep going.
gets, it sort of
Push it all the way out.
attaches to the organics. And so
Come back.
that
come back. Same way.
both kind of thins it out, you know, and it also keeps it from
One more time.
And not all of those heavy metals are actually taken up by the plant systematically. You know, like lead, for example, it could be in your soil, and it can be on your, say you have carrots or turnips or beets or whatever. It can be on that root because it's in the soil, but it's not absorbed by the root. So the safe thing to do is scrub those roots well and peel them if you feel uncomfortable. So the really old houses may not have asbestos, but they had lead in the paint. Because they stopped doing that in, I don't know, in the 60s, I think.
And then we want to do the same thing. On this end, we want to move material around.
But again, get it tested if you're concerned about it. It might relieve you to find out, well, no, it isn't really you know, anything to be concerned about. And it's better than being, you know, constantly worried. So.
As you prepare your bed.
We don't want clumps in the bed.
You don't want clumps in the bed. And so, anybody not a cook?
Not a cook? Not
Can
a
cook.
Oh, can cook.
Any bakers?
Nah,
Who makes a good cake? Who knows? Who's good at spreading frosting on the cake?
I can do that. That I can do.
So this is the equivalent of spreading frosting on the cake. Because you got to have that gentle touch.
That's the fun part.
Because if you don't have that gentle touch, you gouge out the cake.
You know the green fig beetle that flies around?
They don't look like they're like
Well, she
moving
lays
alive.
the eggs
dormant.
in the side of the fruit,
Are they
like
dormant?
a fig. And
No, they're.
Let me show you some real ones.
No, these aren't real.
yes, these are small. These are small. They
These are
get
the real ones.
They feel really soft.
You have these. Should you move them? There's going to be another fig beetle flying over into your yard, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Oh, so you don't.
So these don't really affect your seedlings. Yeah, which let's put those come around.
Yeah, those are like fresh.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we've had a ton of beans here. We've just had beans all the time.
That spinach is really good.